time for the meet and greet. Meet and greet. It's time for the meet and greet. Meet and greet. Proceed to the meet and greet.
Hello guys, welcome to Asavari's Meeting Show 30 with Paul Nichols, the gubernatorial candidate for the New York State. Paul is an attorney who has worked in government for over 15 years. He has worked in Congress, the State Legislature, the New York Supreme Court, the private sector for a corporate firm, and revived a local community center while serving as a leader in his house of worship to serve the community. So Paul, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first, I'd like to just thank you so much, Gargi, for having me on the program. Thank you to all of your listeners and all your viewers. This is an exciting time to be on a wonderful program that seems like this is the best kept secret out here. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing you competing with the likes of folks on CNN, and Anderson Cooper's got nothing on you. So thank you for having me on the program. But again, yes, my name is Paul Nichols, and I'm running for governor of the state of New York. And just a little bit about me, I'm a lifelong New York State resident. Grew up in the borough of Queens, Jamaica, Queens, again, the southeastern part of the state and the borough. And so I was one that I had a passion for government. And so I actually started working in government at the age of 19 years old, worked for a upstate Republican, interestingly enough. And from there, went on to law school, graduated from CUNY University as a public school baby. And so went to CUNY and then went to New York Law School, graduated, passed the bar exam on the first time. Could you believe it? Some folks didn't think that could happen, but we did it. And I actually went to corporate law for a bit, but my heart and my passion was more for the people. So, I transitioned from corporate law and worked for the State Supreme Court, and then worked in the federal court system, worked in the congressional office and the state legislature, working as chief counsel for a number of state senators, and worked actually as counsel for a former Senate Majority Leader, a historical figure in Malcolm Smith, the first African-American to hold the post as Senate Majority Leader. So now I've been in the inside workings of government and know how the sausage is made up in Albany, but then took a break from politics to go and serve in my local church as a leader in the church, and then went on to work as a director for one of the community centers in the NYCHA housing system for South Jamaica houses, where we turned it around, got over $1 million to do some renovations and repairs there. And it's been an amazing journey being able to use the skills and abilities that I've gained over, not so long of a life, but long enough to get the job done, but being able to share those skills with the community. So again, that's just a little sample of who I am, but just a man of the people. I say, don't let the suit and tie fool you. I'm just one of the guys from around the block.
That was so impressive. You have done so much for our community. And let's just start our discussion. So the first topic of discussion is February being Black History Month. So what is a Black History Month? It is an annual observance originating in the United States, where it is also known as African American History Month. It has received official recognition from governments in the United States and Canada, and more recently has been observed in Ireland and the United Kingdom. It has begun as a way of remembering important people and events in the history of the African diaspora. It is celebrated in February in the United States and Canada, while in Ireland and the United Kingdom it is observed in October. When it comes to pioneers in African American history, we have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Maya Angelou, James Baldwin, and Muhammad Ali are often mentioned. Being an American and running for the gubernatorial candidate, how did you see, observe, and celebrate the Black History Month in this February and beyond?
Well, again, thank you for that recognition of the historical nature of the month of February here in the United States, where, we take a pause. And as it's no secret, I am a Black American. And one of the things that I mentioned in my announcement speech back in May of 2021 is that I stand on the shoulders of all of those trailblazers, of all of those amazing Americans and those amazing citizens that went before, that stood up and said, we need to be able to have equal rights. We need to be able to have our ideas be recognized. We need to be able to bring our inventions and creativity and our innovativeness to the forefront. And they did that, and they paved the way for folks like me. This is candidacies like mine are unheard of back in those days where, rights weren't given to everyone. So I'm a byproduct of the amazing, amazing courage and strength that those that have gone before have made and have stood up for. And I'm grateful for that. So in February, we had a number of events where we celebrated a lot of the trailblazers, George Washington Carver, as you mentioned, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King. And then even in recent history, as we're still making history as a state, where we've just recently had the first Black Speaker of the City Council, Adrian Adams, cheers to that. So there's still a lot more history to be made. There's still a lot more trailblazers that are out there. This candidacy is one where when we win, and we're speaking positively, when we win, and this would be the first elected Black official to hold the governor's office seat. So that's an amazing achievement, and that's some Black history that we're looking to continue to make. But it's a nice sobering time to say that we can take a month to recognize, but we know that we should just confine Black recognition of achievements to just 1 month. And it should be something that is celebrated throughout the year, something that we understand is interwoven in the fabric of New York State, but all of this United States. So it was an amazing time to be able to spend, just reflecting on some of the great achievements.
Great answer. So continuing to that topic, what comes next is Black Lives Matter. So once again, with a lot of pride, dignity, and respect, I would say Black Lives Matter. Of course it matters. So it is a decentralized political and social movement that seeks to highlight racism, discrimination, and inequality experienced by the Black people, who are often the victims and sometimes framed as criminals. We know about George Floyd, and his last words were, "I can't breathe." There is a long list, so I can't read all those names who have died, who became martyrs. All I can say is that it's very unfortunate in the land of Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated because of his Emancipation Proclamation. We also recall about George Stinney from Columbia, South Carolina, who was executed in the electric chair in June 1944 for a heinous crime which he never committed.
Right.
So my question to you is, are Black people treated fairly in USA? And if so, why are there so many hate crimes in New York and all over USA? If you are elected, then in which way will you bring the change?
And that's a great question. We absolutely have a long way to go as a state when we're looking at equal rights, equal justice. Even recently, we saw in the NFL that there were head coaches that seemingly were bypassed and not given a fair opportunity, whether it was for the color of their skin or whether it's for some other reason. There's a constant struggle and a constant fight to make the lives of those that have been historically marginalized and overlooked or oppressed, to say your lives matter, your voices matter, your concerns matter, your issues are important to us. And the best way that we can do that as a state is to prioritize those groups and bring their concerns to the forefront. What this candidacy is doing is it's a candidacy steered by the people, fundamentally pushed by a person of color, but even more than just my identity, it's the social order, the social class, where it looks like those in the middle class and those towards the bottom, our lives essentially don't matter, because along with George Floyd, it's like a whole body of people that can't breathe, that feel like they're being suffocated with educational opportunities, suffocated with healthcare opportunities, suffocated when it comes to transportation opportunities, economic opportunities, and all across the board, where we should be living up to the ideals that are in our Constitution, that are in our founding documents, but all too often we're falling far short. And it's the leaders that we have seen that ultimately aren't being held accountable for the environment that they've created that's allowing these inequities, that allowing for law enforcement, who I take great pride in law enforcement, and I'm a strong supporter of law enforcement. But when heinous acts happen, accountability needs to follow. And that's the problem. Not officers, it's just a lack of accountability. So we want to just make sure that we see accountability across the board. We want to see equal opportunities across the board, whether it's sports, whether it's in the boardrooms, whether it's in the academic world, whether it's in the legal community. I remember I was one of 2 African-American males that graduated in my law school class, a law school class of over 500 students. And so, we still have a long way to go. There's not that much representation at the top of a lot of these industries. And so, we need to do the best that we can to diversify. Again, like I said, this candidacy would be the first African-American elected to the position of governor for the state of New York. And this is 2022. So, we probably should have had, quite a few before. And we just recently got the second African-American elected in the city of New York, in Eric Adams. And so we've got a long way to go. Black lives matter. They should matter. That's an obvious statement. But we want to separate it from politics. We don't want it to be about politics or a political movement or a political class. We want it to be about the people. We want it to be about making sure that those, whoever they are, that have been marginalized, overlooked, that have been oppressed, that they can come to the forefront. That's important.
Very good. And I wish you all the very best of luck that you get the position. So let's talk about the economic agenda. So right now, our country is going through a very tough economy. We are bogged into almost $31 trillion of debts and deficits, which are very difficult to recover. The dent is very deep. In addition, we are financing Ukraine to fight with Russia. So what is your opinion about it, and what economic package do you have for New York, and how powerful is it?
Well, it's pretty powerful, if you ask me. I mean, my opinion might be a little biased, but I feel as if we haven't really brought economic issues to the forefront. My campaign has been coining a term and a phrase called economic health. Now, we've focused often on the physical health of people, which that's important. We all need to hit the gym when we can. We've now seen the importance of mental health coming to the forefront, and that needs attention. But what has often gone completely overlooked is the economic health of individuals throughout the state, where if folks do not have the adequate resources in their pockets throughout the course of a given budget cycle, in their personal budgets at home, you see the outgrowths of depression, stress, where folks that are living from paycheck to paycheck, always dealing with the specter of knowing that that there's just one missed paycheck away from being in foreclosure or being dragged into court for an eviction from their apartment. And so what we're planning to do is we're going to set up a whole entire division of economic health that's meant to completely emphasize creating disposable income into the pockets of ordinary average New Yorkers. And this division's main job is to economically empower residents. One of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to readdress and revisit the way we do wages in the state of New York. $15 an hour just is not enough to be able to make sure that folks are able to live and to survive. Even if you have a full-time job, $15 an hour just doesn't cut it. And the statistics, the research says that in order to be able to comfortably live in the state of New York, and particularly some of the downstate regions, the minimum wage should be $30 an hour, $33 an hour, $34 an hour. Now, we have to understand that we can't treat all businesses the same and say that we're going to have a one-size-fits-all. Mom and pop shops will not be able to pay like Amazon can pay, like Walmart can play, like Target can play, like some of these other bigger companies. So we need to revisit and think about how we do minimum wage in this state that really reflects someone's ability and a company's ability to pay. That's one thing. And we also have a creative plan called a New York credit score, which is designed to economically empower residents by giving them financial and economic tools to be able to improve their economic status. And so what a New York credit score is after individuals have taken an approved financial education course, you'll be given a perfect 850 New York credit score, where as long as you're applying for anything in the state of New York, you're going to be able to have lenders only look at your New York credit score. This is going to allow folks to be able to get access to business loans, private loans, folks that are denied apartments or mortgages because of credit now get a fresh breath of life, but you're now given that fresh breath with tools to be able to go out there in the market and to do better. And then also addressing the housing crisis, because we have a pandemic when it comes to housing and affordability, which directly impacts someone's economics, because the New York State Comptroller issued a report that says 2.9 million residents in the state of New York are living in a place called cost burden, where they're spending more than 30% of their income on just keeping a roof over their head. And then half of those same folks are in a severely cost burden state where they're spending more than 50% of their income on just keeping a roof over their head. This is a pandemic. This is just equal to the amount of folks that tested positive for COVID. So what that means is after you've paid your rent, you don't have anything left over to be able to invest, to be able to save, to be able to have an emergency fund. So we've got to address all of those issues, and we've got creative ways in which we're going to be doing those, but those have to come to the forefront, because I heard James Carville say in 1992 in the presidential race that it's the economy, stupid. The economy is important, and we've got to make sure that that comes to the forefront in this very important race.
Right. So let's talk about the priorities of New York. So New York needs a lot of fixes. For example, roads, bridges, pipelines, subways, hospitals, theater halls, educational institutions, and government buildings need to be repaired, not just patched up. So my question to you is that what are your priorities and what is coming on the table?
Right. As we said, the economy is priority, but as you mentioned, New York is 30th in our infrastructure. We have bridges and roads. I mean, sometimes you have to hold your breath when you're driving down some of these expressways, because you never know if you're going to hit a pothole that's going to change your whole day and change your whole evening. Now, one of the things that we're looking to do on the state level is to revolutionize transportation, where we're going to utilize technology that we haven't taken advantage of, not just in New York State, but across the country. Places like China that utilize high-speed rail, where you have cities that are separated by large distances, but you're able to have connectivity of those same places because you have high-speed rails that's able to get folks to destinations that previously would take them a couple of hours. Now they're there in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Imagine a New York State where you can work downstate in the city where there may be some more opportunities, but you can live in Onondaga County, you can live in Dutchess County, you can live in different places where folks would love to be able to enjoy the quality of life that may come with living in different parts of the state, which, mind you, they're beautiful parts of the state. As I've been traveling campaigning, they're beautiful parts of the state that folks that have transplanted and moved from New York City to different parts have said, man, I wish we would have found this earlier because it's so amazing. But the ability to connect all of the state is not there. And we need to do some serious investments. High-speed rail is a critical tool that can make the entire state connected on a way that would bridge a lot of gaps, provide a lot of economic opportunity, and allow for the state to really grow. A lot of population centers can be spread out, and we can have folks to be able to enjoy so many wonderful parts of the state of New York. But it takes just a little bit of outside of the box thinking, and it takes a little bit of political will to say we've got to prioritize what's in the best interest of the people.
Exactly, for the best interest of the people. That's the thing I really liked. So let's talk a little bit about climate change. So today, Paul and me, we are dressed up a little bit like the flag of Ukraine. We have blue and we have something in yellow. And the blue part, it signifies the sky and the joy. And the yellow signifies the wheat field. So, and also, the bright, the vibrance, of Ukraine. So we all know that there is a war going on, and climate change refers to long-term shifts in the temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, which produces heat-trapping gases. So why, in your opinion, climate change is so important, and what is your plan about restoring the climate?
Climate change is critical. We see the effects of climate change. I mean, there were times where you would talk about 100-year storms like Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy. And, I was actually trapped on the BQE when, the storm Ida hit and there was intense flooding. And I visited the homes of, unfortunately, some folks that had family members lose their life in the flood. And so these kinds of floods, we call them 100-year floods for a reason, because it didn't happen but for so many years, 100 years, 50 years. But now it seems like every other year we're getting hit by devastating storms. We're getting hit by devastated climate that's really impacting the lives of regular people. And so what we have to do is, as a state and as a country, we've got to be leaders and say we've got to adjust our behavior. We've got to adjust what we do. We have to adjust what we invest in. We have to invest in wind and solar. There were many ideas that have been, pushed to the back burner that would have created some nice wind farms off the different coasts that we have throughout the state, which would present amazing opportunities to develop energy that will allow for the climate to really come to the forefront and be considered, and making sure that we have decisions that are made that are not short term, and that we don't just get the benefit of certain types of energy, but that we're thinking long term, and we're thinking about how what we do affects the climate. We can do a lot more in terms of subsidizing the purchasing of electrical vehicles, so that way, all of these emissions that go into our atmosphere aren't continuing to contribute to the things that make the weather change so drastically. I mean, I'm a big National Geographic fan, and I watch all of the shows that show the current erosion patterns aren't sustainable, that we have glaciers that are melting, and those are going to start having impacts, as we've already started seeing throughout the globe. So we've got to really be leaders as state leaders, as elected leaders, to lead the way in how we change behavior of our residents, to say, if we want to save ourselves, we have to start by saving the climate and saving our atmosphere, because, we can invest in the short term to the sacrifice of the long term, or we can flip that and say, let's think 50 years down the line, 70 years down the line, 100 years down the line, because we have to make sure that we're leaving a world period for the next generation, for our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren. We can't mess it up for everyone. I would often think about my mother. I was the last of 6 children. And so if my oldest brother used up all the resources, there wasn't anything left for me when everything came down to it. So if there was a bucket of chicken that was out there, they can't use it up and not think about, the ones further down the line. So, we have a responsibility as leaders to say we have to think about those that are coming down the line, and not only leave something for them, but we have to leave it in a good shape that it will be able to serve them just as well as it's serving us now. So climate change is critically important.
I know it's very important. So, Paul, what do you think about the war? There are being so much going on at the border, and also, we are watching the news. It is the breaking news, in fact. So, how is war directly or indirectly related to the climate change, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, you see, obviously some of the weapons that are being used, that's just never good for the climate. But then, we're seeing the aftermath of gas prices soaring, and so
Oh my
you're
God.
going to start seeing. Yeah, every time I go to fill up my car, a little part of me dies at the pump, because it's so intense. First, my heart goes out to all of our Ukrainian brothers and sisters that are really going through a very difficult time. Our thoughts and our prayers are with you. We stand with you. The state of New York will stand with you and continues to stand with you. We denounce those leaders that aren't respecting of sovereign rights, of individual rights, and have murderous intent. And we have to stand as a state, as a country, and as a globe to say certain actions we denounce, and we will remove as whatever support we can to send a clear message that certain acts are unacceptable. But we see war is always going to have a devastating negative impact on the climate, and we've got to be able to pay attention to that. Especially as we talked about, the price at the pump is
Yes.
definitely going to lead to changed behaviors, where folks are going to be trying to do what they can, fuel wise, and so we just have to be very, very careful in the next coming weeks and coming months, and how we handle this as elected leaders, because the aftermath of this is going to last for generations.
Exactly. Do you think that there may be a World War III? I hope not.
I certainly would. We certainly hope not. I mean, you have leaders that are impulsive. I think we have all gotten to the point where we recognize that each party has devastating access to technology and weapons that could really do damage all throughout the world. We saw back in World War II with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and some of the long-lasting impacts of using nuclear warheads. And so we've got to be very responsible. And I think at least on some level, leaders do understand that if you do ignite some type of global conflict where folks are now pulling out devastating weapons, we may as a planet not survive. And so I think cooler heads will ultimately prevail. I think the pressure that the world community is now putting on Russia, removing them from some athletic events, pulling some economic support, some of the sanctions, hopefully President Putin will get the message and realize that there is a united global front to disavow this kind of behavior and get them to rethink ways in which they want to move forward. So I absolutely hope a World War III won't happen, but I think that the power of good will always prevail, and I think we're seeing a message of a good global unity starting to happen, to say
Right.
we're going to stand with them that have been oppressed.
Right. So I have one more question. I mean, I just can't help asking you. Paul, I know you are very religious, okay? And you are very kind, you are very generous, you are very understanding, and you are very patient, okay? So say, for example, if you were our commander-in-chief, and if you had got the chance to visit Russia or to talk to Mr. Putin remotely, then do you think that you could make some difference, like negotiate much better on
Yeah,
Ukraine?
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I feel sometimes in my faith, you do have love and compassion, but then sometimes you have to show the strong side of yourself as well. Sometimes you have to let folks know that whereas we may speak softly, we carry a big stick, and so being able to let President Putin know that we are loving and compassionate, and we will forgive you for these atrocious acts, and you need to pull back, you need to come back. We're going to send a very, very clear message that we don't stand for certain aggressive acts. And, there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. There's a time for love and there's a time for strength. And that's something that comes directly out of my religious book, the Bible, in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, where there's a time for everything. And so I think, being able to show that compassion and being able to find out what's really the motive behind going in and finding what they want and try to see what ways in which the global community can help meet some of those needs that still respects the Ukrainian sovereignty. I think that's important. And I think it's important to be able to, at the same time, deliver very strong messages that aggressive, hostile acts will not be tolerated.
Right, I completely agree with you. And see, if you see the flags of United States of America and Russia, it's the same tricolor flag. The design is, of course, different, but it's same combination of white, blue, and red. Then,
Correct.
Christianity is the main religion of both the countries. Then sports, I mean, in Olympics, Russia and America, I mean, United States of America, we almost get the same number of medals, gold, silver, bronze. So
Great
culturally
answer.
also, yeah, culturally also, there are so similarities. I would say music is music is something that, it's common. Then cuisine is kind of common. So I just don't understand that why couldn't we ever shake our hands with each other, So, Paul, I have a very
Right.
strong feeling that if you were our commander-in-chief and if you would have gotten the chance to talk to Mr. Putin, then probably, you could have make a difference, right, Paul?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And folks are a little difficult, but you just got to have a little backbone sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Anyway, so I was so much enjoying, but as we all know that your time is really very valuable and you are so busy. And I more than appreciate that in spite of your super hectic schedule, you gave some time to Asavari's meeting show. And now it's the time for a closing statement. So let's make this meeting show really memorable by talking about women empowerment, entrepreneurship, Women History Month, and the International Women's Day. So what is your opinion about it?
Well, I'm a big fan of women, that's to say the least. I think it's great that we set aside a month for Women's History Month, and I think it's particularly important that we set aside a day for recognizing who I call the heartbeat of the globe and our wonderful, powerful women. Me personally, I am the byproduct of a mother who has been amazing. She's a spiritual leader in the house of worship that I'm worshiping at. And she has been the bedrock and she has been the foundation that has laid the groundwork for everything that I've been able to do. And so my hat's off to her and, other single mothers that have to basically do double duty and often aren't given the credit and are unsung heroes, but they nevertheless step up to the plate and do what they have to do and keep everything rolling and keep everything running. We have so many historical figures that have been behind the scenes. And so it's great that we're able to bring them to the forefront. It's great that we're able to give them their flowers and be able to celebrate them. And that's what my campaign is all about. There's a number of unsung heroes throughout the state of New York that they're working harder than they've ever had to work before, that they're doing more than they've ever been asked to do before. And it seems as if they're being forgotten, that they're not being heard, that they're not being given the opportunities to do more and to grow. This is a campaign about regular people. We've had millionaires lead the way for so long, and they've not been in tune with the needs of the people, because we can't have a millionaire leading because, you know, they're making educational policy, but their children are not going to be going to the schools that they're deciding on. They're making the healthcare policies, but they're not going to be going to the doctors and participating in the system that they're dictating. And the same with transportation, and the same with many other areas. We need someone that is connected, that understands, that identifies an ordinary person that will feel the effects of their policy and enacts policies through that lens of an understanding of what the true issues are. And so just like our women have to come to the forefront, all of the regular New Yorkers that have been ignored, have been overlooked, and have been put to the side because of politics, we've got to come to the forefront. And I think this candidacy strikes just that right tone to be able to bring something brand new for the state of New York.
That's an awesome answer. I'm so much impressed because every single day as a woman, we all play so many roles. I saw a very impressive photograph of yours, with your mother on social media, and that was so impressive. You have a beautiful mother. Yeah, she is so pretty. And
Thank you. Thank you.
if you wish, you
I
can,
wish I got somebody to look.
yeah, you can talk a little bit about your mother, that, how she has inspired you.
Yeah, like you said, she's a beautiful woman. I said, if I got half of her looks, I'd be doing okay. But she was one that raised, 4 children and then 2 adopted ones by herself. And she really was an inspiration to so many. She's the pastor of our local church. And she's not only been a mother to me, but she's been like a mother to so many others who, have been motherless and have been looking for good, strong female guidance and good, strong female leadership. So, Mom, I love you. You're amazing. And I wouldn't be able to do this without you. And so I take pride in knowing that, the state of New York will have not only a leader that feels the same thing that they feel and understands, but they're going to have a mother behind him that's going to keep him in line and making sure he's serving the people the way that he's supposed to. Because I can't go back to my mom and say, Mom, I'm not doing right by the state of New York. She's always one. You're never too old, for me to discipline. So I'm grateful for my mother. I'm grateful for you, Gargi, and what you have been and what you continue to be for, those that are looking for good, trustworthy information, and those that are out there and want a clear voice of truth. Truth is often hard to find these days. So programs like yours that bring truth to the forefront, that give listeners opportunities to be able to hear and see and understand. My hat's off to you again as another symbol of the dynamic power that the women in the state of New York have, which again, my cabinet's going to be filled with strong women that are going to be helping us lead the way into a brand new age for New York. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Paul. I more than appreciate your valuable time. In spite of your super hectic schedule, you came and you spoke so well. You spoke on very important issues. And I wish you all the very best of luck. Your principle, your agenda, your plans, you have a roadmap. That's what I personally feel, that you have a very clear roadmap, and you can make a difference. And we need someone like you to come forward, who is young, handsome, charismatic, energetic, well-read, well-educated, well-spoken, and very informative. So I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And anytime you would want me to come back on this
Oh,
amazing
yes.
platform, like I said,
Yes,
CNN and
of
Anderson
course.
Cooper better watch out.
Of course,
Chuck Todd and the
if you
press.
have time, because I'm afraid that, I mean, the more we approach towards the election day, you will become even more busy with your campaign, and you have so many things going on around you. So if you have time for Asavari, anytime,
We'll
I'm
always
there.
make time. We'll always make time. We'll always make time. Thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless each and every one of your listeners. And again, the election is June 28th, 2022. And as I've been saying for the last year, in 2022, nickels is going to equal change. God bless you all.
I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night.